Midsize sedans have had a bit of a renaissance lately, with changes that run deeper than your average facelift or new model generation. Apart from the usual battering from SUVs big and small, there's also the case of the higher executive sedan segment having just gone extinct. The newest wave of midsize sedans then has had to step up in size, spec, power, tech, premium feel and price too. In fact, Hyundai calls its all-new Verna a mid-large sedan, a classification it also confers on its rivals the City Slavia and Virtus, based not only on their larger size, but their larger price tags too. The Ciaz is conspicuously absent from the list for that reason. For its new generation Verna, Hyundai has really wiped the slate clean and started over. It leads the way for future Hyundais, being built on a new platform with a radical new design. Overseas, in fact, the larger Elantra and Sonata have just been given facelifts to align with this new look. Its defining feature is a slim LED light bar across the nose, which is the brand's new sedan signature. The headlights split off and relegated lower down in the form of non-projector LED and halogen indicators. The smooth fluidic lines of older Vernas have been chopped up into sharply intersecting angles as part of the new Parametric Dynamics design dialect, and you can see this in the door panels and fenders, as well as in smaller motifs on the C-pillar and even the bumpers. It's most evident in the grille that now stretches edge to edge, much like in the Tucson, and has sharp slashes instead of a conventional mesh or slatted pattern. The look is striking and will be instantly recognizable, but there's no doubt it's divisive, containing just so many elements that it can look overstyled in places. If you can look past these details, however, you'll find a nicely proportioned sedan underneath. There are muscular haunches over the rear wheel arches and the roof flows down in an almost fastback-like way, helping disguise a lot of the added bulk. And that means more than just interior space. There's now a class-leading 528 liters of boot space. It hit the market with a rear seat that was not much more spacious than its predecessors and notably less than what rivals like the Ciaz and Gen 4 City offered. Hyundai says this was the first thing to be addressed with the new Verna, and it shows. Space back here is now vast, and at least on par, if not more than rivals. You also don't sit as low down as before, another old Verna bugbear, and this not only aids ingress and egress, but gives you a much better view forward. They've managed this while retaining good headroom and with no increase in the exterior height of the vehicle. It's all down to better packaging and that fastback roof. Up front, the design feels like a proper generational leap, with a minimalist and horizontally oriented look replacing the rather generic V-shape of before. The shelf-like dashboard has full-width AC vents with brushed silver accents, and an LED ambient light bar that extends onto the doors. The dual 10.25-inch infotainment and instrument screens are an upmarket touch similar to the Ioniq 5, and eliminate the need for a hooded binnacle. The touchscreen is angled towards the driver, as is the central console below it, although the digital dials are still more a backlit panel than a proper color screen like in the Creta or Alcazar. The new two-spoke steering wheel design looks futuristic. The metallic finish of the switches feels upmarket, and it's adjustable for rake and reach. There's a slim panel on the dash that alternates between AC and infotainment controls at the press of a button, and while that might sound gimmicky, it's incredibly effective in practice. It still has two physical knobs which are easy to use with muscle memory while driving, and though some functions are on a touch panel, that's still better than going into a sub-menu on the touchscreen. Quality, as is generally the case in Hyundais, is very good, with generous soft touch material on the dash and great plastic quality all around. There's no huge swathes of flat, dull plastic like in the i20 and Creta, and even the hard plastic panels in the door cards have been textured to look like leather. With the new Verna, diesel is officially dead in the midsize sedan segment. What you get instead are two petrol engines, the 1.5-liter MPI, naturally aspirated four-cylinder petrol engine mated to a 6-speed manual or 8-step CVT, or a 1.5-liter TGD, direct injection turbo petrol 4-cylinder engine, mated to a 6-speed manual or 7-speed dual clutch auto, we got a chance to drive all but the base MPI manual. The 115 horsepower naturally aspirated petrol is familiar by now, having appeared in the previous Verna and the Creta, apart from the Kia Seltos and Carens. It's refined with an even spread of power and performance that feels ample for the city and adequate out on the highway. The difference here is that the CVT feels better tuned than even the one in the Creta. The Eco Drive mode feels expectedly sluggish, but in normal, responses and performance line up quite well with the revs. It almost feels rewarding to drive, more so even than Sport mode, which does add some pep at low speeds, but then also suffers a severe rubber band effect as you go faster. You might even be tempted to use the paddles to hop through the simulated gears, but really this isn't the engine for driving enthusiastically. Steering has always been one of the barriers to spirited driving in a Hyundai Verna, and unfortunately, that hasn't been completely resolved. It turns out the driving modes also add weight to the steering, but again the effect is so minuscule, I had to go back out again just to double check. It's miles better than the Vernas of old, but still far from the last word in feedback, weight, or precision. What it's great at is being light and effortless, so when you're just mooching around town or parallel parking, you'll really appreciate it. What has seen a marked improvement is the suspension and ride quality. What was once an overly soft, bouncy setup was rectified in the last generation with a lot more control, but this came with the side effect of thuds and crashes through bumps. This time, they seem to have ironed it out and found a happy balance that's good for the driver and the driven. It still errs more on the side of comfort. With nice soft-edged low-speed bump absorption, it doesn't get too unsettled as you go faster and even remains composed at expressway speeds.